we were told we were going to get a copy of the most recent proposed ordinance. Up until about an hour and a half ago, my council person said she hadn't received it. So I never really, I also haven't received it, so I'm not really sure totally what's in there. But my understanding is that we are, for some reason, raising the number of spots on that list from the, are you going to give me now? That's great, thank you. Appreciate it. Currently, we have 10 active spots on that list. My understanding is we're going to raise that to be as many as 15. Now, for many, many years, probably better than 30 years, municipalities, towns, cities have gone to court. There's court decisions, abundant court decisions. And all of these cities and towns are always fighting with tow companies to keep their list smaller and really aimed at keeping outside businesses outside of their township or municipality off of their list. However, my understanding is a couple months ago, we the town police department, and at least one of you council people have told me that you were aware of it, sent letters to out-of-town businesses encouraging them to update their application because we want to put them on their list. So can you tell me why that is? I was told I was going to get an answer to that tonight.
I don't know of any letter that went out asking people to be on our list. I don't know who you talked to get that information, but when we had our committee meetings and we talked to other town council people, we had, people were worried about any new people coming in, all the older tow companies that were in business, we were limiting business coming in. If, say you had a child that wanted to branch off from you and go into business, they couldn't start a tow company on their own. So by expanding the list, we allow other people that are currently in the town to go into that field of business. So it's not just, no one has an ownership over the town tow list. This is non-consensual tows, and people that want to go into that business can apply to be on our list. So we're making it fair for everybody, and anybody that wants to start a business and go into business for non-consensual tows. You don't have to be on a town list. We'd like you to be on the list. You're a town business, and you're a good business. But it's not an ownership right to be on our list. So if you're on our list, no one else gets a chance. We had a waiting list for how many years? No, I don't know too many companies that got on that list ever, that wanted to be on that list. Somebody would have to come off that list. Do you understand?
Okay.
So you were limiting anybody getting out of high school that maybe didn't want to go to college, wanted to go into business, wanted to open a little repair shop, buy a tow truck, and go into business for themselves. So it's fair for everybody.
So this proposed ordinance is limiting it to 15.
There's a number we had to set. That was the number that was chosen collectively when we had our in-house meetings. Doesn't mean 15 are going to be on the list. It's going to be up to the police chief to make that determination.
Okay. So once again, I ask, when the whole world is trying to limit their list to help protect their town businesses and residents, we are doing the opposite. So still I ask why, because that didn't really answer my question, sir. I'm sorry.
We're looking for public safety here. Okay?
And how is it safe to have 15?
I didn't say it's going to be that. You might not have 15 people apply. But it gives people a chance. Everybody gets to make a little bit of money to be on our list. But they have to meet certain criteria, safety criteria. The trucks have to be up to code.
With all due respect, that still doesn't answer my question. Why are we increasing it to 15? Can anybody answer my question? Why we're increasing the number on our tow list?
The board as a committee whole decided 15 was going to be the number. That was the number they came up with. It does not mean that we have to keep 15. Every year, at the end of the season, before our January meeting, we'll ask the chief if he wants to bring it up or wants to bring it down. He may only have 10 on the list. It's a max of 15.
So what rationality did we use to come up with this 15?
We're not here to just debate the rationale. That's what the board came up with. That's there. If you have a rationale why you don't like it there, this is a public hearing for you to express your opinion of why you would like us to change it to 10, 12, or whatever. You know. That's the rationale.
Yeah,
The committee came up with the number of 15.
Totally understand why I'm here. I'm just, again, why is the town of Poughkeepsie looking to increase the number on our tow list and sending letters out, because they are out there? I could bring one to you and show it to you. I have a copy of it.
Sure.
Why are we sending letters to out-of-town businesses and encouraging them to be on our tow list, and we're raising the number on our tow list when everybody else does the opposite?
Anybody can currently be on our list if they are within 2 miles of the town.
Okay. Do you understand that that hurts town business?
What I understand is we can't stop interstate commerce. Our lawyer has told us that numerous times over and over. And as I think I spoke to you today on the phone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And what I also told you about an hour ago was I wish you would have called sooner and expressed some concern. An hour before a meeting just doesn't give me enough time to sit down and talk to you.
And now you told me that if I came here tonight, you're going to give me an answer to why we increased our number.
Because I think I was pretty clear that if somebody...
You haven't given it to me yet.
I think I said, if somebody gets out of school and wants to go into the towing business, why can't they have a chance to make some money in the town of Poughkeepsie, where they live? I think it's pretty clear.
Currently, there's 10 spots on the list.
Yeah.
I'll advise, I think you know, actually, 3 of those tow businesses are town residents. 2 of those 3 actually have a legitimate business where you can go and there's a building and it's used for that purpose and solely that purpose. So you have 7 non-residents, and I have to be honest, I know who's on that waiting list, I know who's coming on, and none of them are town residents, and none of them are town businesses. So how is that helping the town residents that you just said?
I'm saying we had to choose a number, but if anybody graduates from school and wants to go into that business, we limited it now down to 1 year of experience to allow somebody to be able to profit and make money in this town. What you trying to say is you want all the business just for yourself because you're a town business?
It is.
We cannot restrict business, and we shouldn't be restricting it only to the town.
You know, all the towns around us, Hyde Park, you must own, lease, or sublease business premises which include either lighted fence, outdoor, blah, 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 facilities, boundaries of the town of Hyde Park. In addition, the applicant must maintain a business either within the town or within a quarter of a mile. Village of Wappingers, storage area and actual business located in the Village of Wappingers. So I don't know who their attorney is or how they interpret certain laws or find ways to interpret it to benefit town businesses and residents. But possibly maybe we ought to talk to them or try a little harder.
How does the limiting the list benefit town residents other than the tow company? Just out of curiosity.
I'm sorry, how is
How does limiting the list benefit town residents other than you and the other tow company? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought revenue was good for the town.
No, just specific, other than you and the other town tow company, how does it benefit all residents? You said it benefits residents.
I thought revenue, I thought I shared the opinion that everybody has it. Revenue for the town is good for town residents. You don't agree with that?
No, I do, but that,
Oh, okay.
But if it's only,
but limiting it to just you and one other person.
I'm not
doesn't-
saying limited to one other person.
Well, that's what you said.
No, actually I
Well,
didn't.
You're concerned, what you'd like to do is what the other towns have.
Not necessarily.
We're limiting them.
We're doing the opposite. We're doing the opposite though.
Okay.
We're doing the opposite. And I think somewhere in the middle might be nice. 6 or 8 spots on the list might be
That would be
nice.
further reducing it. And here's the thing.
Yeah, why is that a bad thing?
If one town is doing it and another town is doing it, doesn't mean that we have to follow what somebody else does. To say that 10 towns out of 20 are doing it, so we should join those 10, doesn't make it, it's not an argument that makes me feel like we gotta move in that direction.
I guess my opinion, and I think any reasonable person would share it, that the job of the town board and council is to do good for the town, creating revenue, keeping revenue within the town, good for business, good for taxpayers, and finding ways like these people have to do that would be beneficial for everybody. But again, we're doing the opposite. We're going in the opposite direction.
I would tend to think the more you have on the list may make it more financially beneficial for the residents because prices may go lower. So that's putting money back in Town,
It has nothing to do with that.
I'm sorry, I disagree with you. You have an opinion, I have an opinion on it.
Gentlemen, it's a public hearing, let's just hear his comment.
So diluting the list, as was once mentioned to me, has nothing to do with possibly the current lawsuit going on.
What I'm
and
telling
possibly
you, what I'm telling you now is, I'd like to see the kids that are
Friction
graduating out of high
between-
school that want to go into the tow business, they have a chance to get on this list now. It's not just everybody that's on the list owns that spot forever and ever. It's not, you know, it's a fair shot for everybody to get on this list. Give somebody else a chance to make a little money too.
And in my
And give somebody
opinion,
a career.
in my opinion, diluting this has nothing to do with any lawsuit. Honestly, I can't think of anything else where we limit competition in this way. So diluting the list isn't directly related to any lawsuit, in my opinion. But you get your opinion, I get my opinion. That's how it works.
not really my opinion, it was a statement
Okay,
made by somebody.
okay. So you get your statement, I'm just responding to it.
What I told you was, I will answer your question because we're on a lawsuit. Any question I answer will be answered at this meeting.
Okay.
That's what I told you, and I've answered your question.
I don't think I have.
I'm not answering a question at my house, on my phone, where you can misinterpret something.
Then answer it
So I
now
just
for me,
answered it,
please.
and you cannot misinterpret what I just said. I was
Then answer
clear.
it now for me. Why are we increasing the number? Why did we
I
increase
think
the
I've
number
answered
to
that question.
15?
I think I've answered that question numerous times.
Sam, it's public, now let's just hear his comment, and the board will make the decision after we listen to everybody's comment.
And I'd like to know the rationale behind that.
If the board wants to give a rationale, this isn't fun, when you're done, this is a hearing, you get to hear what you have to say, and at the end of the comment, when we decide to vote or not, they will answer the questions that they want to answer. If that's what they think they should answer at that point, the rationale of the committee is the rationale of the committee.
Thank you.
And I think Stefan had answered, and so Mike answered that. Anybody else?
Again, Larry Sheehan, the owner of Prestige Automotive and Towing, located in Red Oaks Mills. I've been on your town list for over 35 years. Councilman Sifon, to answer your question or kind of give you my input, if I was fresh out of high school and I had an automotive interest and I wanted to start a towing company, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to start in the town of Poughkeepsie. Because if I do, I'm going to be at the end of your waiting list. Your waiting list hasn't moved in the 35 years. We've had a truck here, a truck there. 90% of the tow companies that are on that list have been there for as long as I have, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. What I would do, though, I would buy a piece of property in LaGrange. I'd be on their towing list. I'd be on the sheriff's towing list, state police towing list, and then apply to the town of Poughkeepsie. Take all that revenue that I get from the town of Poughkeepsie and pay my LaGrange taxes. That's what I would do. So, Councilman Sifon, if you're saying that you're going to encourage people to get into business for themselves, that's wonderful. It's not going to happen in the town of Poughkeepsie. They're going to sit in Wampagers Falls. They're going to go to LaGrange, Hyde Park. They're not coming to town of Poughkeepsie.
Are you on any other list in the town?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I'm a sycophant. I have dedicated myself to the town of Poughkeepsie list for 35 plus years. You guys decided now increase the number of trucks, therefore you are decreasing the number of calls I get by 50%. I have missed baseball games, soccer games, school events, birthdays, holidays, so I'm available to you guys. And this is how you repay me after 35 years? I think that's atrocious. $65,000 in taxes I paid this year, property and school taxes. 75% of that went to my commercial properties. We look at the other tow companies. Councilman Renahan, 909D, bad accident, Friday night, 5:30 rush hour. 2 miles. Route 9, Hyde Park. We got plenty of tow companies up there. How long is it going to get for that tow company to get down to 909D? Let's go out to Saw Point, 2 miles past the town. You call that truck. How long is it going to take for that truck to get there? You want 20 minutes on a Friday night, 5 o'clock? Councilman Ranahan, you know as well as I do. They make it happen. Same thing in LaGrange, same thing in Wampagers. You try to get from the village of Wampagers to Saw Point Turnpike during rush hour, it's not going to happen. Safety. You want those officers sitting on Route 9, 9 in Vassar, 9 in Spatkill Road for 25, 30 minutes on a rush hour, 5:30 on a Friday night. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I ask you, why? Why can't we employ a one tow list rule? You want to be on the town tow list? One list. You want to be on our list? Fine, one list. Half mile from the town.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. Mr. Supervisor, I'll interrupt for a minute here. Mr. Sheehan is Mike in my ward, and he and I have had conversations with respect to being on the list. We don't always agree, but he's always usually very easy to talk with. Would you take a minute, Mr. Sheehan, and explain to the board the thought behind a one tow list requirement? Meaning, I'm taking that to mean that all the tow trucks who want to apply to be on our list can only be on our list.
Sure, it shows dedication. It shows loyalty. In the time of need, when trucks are needed, whether it be weather, real bad accident, bad storms like we had the other day, power lines down, what's going to happen? You're not the only people that need tow trucks. LaGrange needs tow trucks, Hyde Parks, Village of Wampum, all going to need tow trucks. I'm the only company that I know of is on one list and one list only. Everybody else is on multiple lists. When the poop hits the fan, you're going to have trucks in LaGrange picking up those cars. What's going to happen to the officers on Route 9? They're going to sit there and wait. They're going to call for a truck that may not be in the town or dedicated to one list. They're going to call a truck from LaGrange or Hyde Park. If that truck's busy, they're going to give you that 20-minute ETA on the phone. At 18 minutes, they're going to call headquarters and say, we're stuck in traffic, we need another 10 minutes. Headquarters is not going to turn around and make another phone call for another truck. That's going to take 20 minutes. One list and one list only, when you call, I'll be there. I'm not going to be in town of LaGrange picking up a car. I'm not going to be in the Village of Wampum picking up a car in Hyde Park. I'm going to be there for you, like I have been for 35 plus years. It's safety. It's all about safety. Do we want our officers sit on Route 9, 3, 4, 5 cars, multiple officers, directing traffic? I'd rather have them patrolling my neighborhood, making sure my house doesn't get broken into. I like to have them in the area in Red Oaks Mills when the old lady on Needle Lane breaks her leg falling into the bathtub and drowning. I want an officer there. I don't want them on Route 9 babysitting traffic, babysitting the wrecked cars. I want those officers back on the job doing what they do best, protecting and serving. Not babysitting cars, waiting for a truck from LaGrange, Hyde Park, Village of Wappingers. 2 miles. We're talking Highland. We're talking Salt Point Turnpike, Hyde Park. This weekend, this Friday, you guys go 2 miles from town on Salt Point Turnpike and you try to make it to 9 and Vassar in 20 minutes. It's not going to happen. But you got 3, 4 police cars there waiting for that tow truck to arrive. In the meantime, the old lady's drowning in the bathtub. In the meantime, we got a home invasion going on, or a shooting. Councilman Renahan will tell you, how many police cars are on Route 9 and Vassar? Busy evening, 5 o'clock. 3 cars?
It could be 2, 3 cars.
Why are they there? They're waiting for trucks. They shouldn't be waiting for trucks. They need to get back on patrol. It's all about safety, people. Safety. Yeah, the experience is great. 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, whatever it may be. Get a police officer, you go 16 weeks worth of training, you give them a gun and a car that goes really fast. You're worried about a lawsuit? Well, maybe they should get 3 years experience someplace else before you hire them. Again, if a business wants to come into the town as a tow truck, they're not doing it. They're going to go to LaGrange and be on their 3 lists, and then apply.
I have a question for you.
So, if it was only town resident companies, you then would be you'd be in favor of just a wide open list? Because what you said is that the young guy's not going to come here because the list has been stagnant. It doesn't move.
Mm-hmm.
So the list should probably be open then, if that's the argument, right?
It's not an argument for that stuff.
well, but
It's just, no, I mean, I know we've gone round and round about the legality of whether or not you can have a town-only list. I've read a lot of case law.
I'm just asking, if it was you had to have a business here, then should the list be wide open, because then it would allow movement?
I'm not saying that you should have a business here. I'm saying that if you will only allow trucks to be on your list that are only on one list and your list only, that's going to show dedication.
Right, so if you're only on one list, should it be open?
What do you mean
The list?
open?
No limit.
No, I think you need to limit it to a certain degree, whether it be a half mile or...
No, not that, I mean, no number.
Needs a number.
Like, the 10, 15, 8, it's kind of arbitrary.
I'm not-
But what you said concerned me, because you said if a young person wanted to do this, they just won't come to the town of Poughkeepsie, because you can never get on, you can get on the list, but you won't get anywhere.
Exactly.
So should it be just open, so that you can get on the list? If, whatever the criteria the board decides to put in place, should the list just be wide open with no limit? Because then it allows people to come in and do business here if they meet whatever hoops that we tell them to jump through.
When you mean wide open, you mean no limit to number of trucks?
Right, you don't limit it to 8, 10, or 15. You
I
just
understand
say,
what you're saying.
if you meet the criteria, you get on the list.
Let me answer that
Maybe
question.
The list could be 30.
Let me answer this. I understand what you're saying now. If you're asking me, and if I was writing the rules, one truck only, me. Okay, I'm being selfish, I agree with you. However, I drive up and down Route 9. There's vacant buildings all over the place. So in the big scheme of things, I feel that yes, the list should have no limit. If you are a legitimate business and you want to be dedicated to that particular business, I have no problem with that. They're paying their fair share, as Joe Biden would say. They're paying their fair share. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. But I can tell you right now, the way you got it, you're going to have 15 trucks on that list and 15 trucks waiting. So if my kid decides to open up a building, case in point, I bought a building in your district with the intent to put my son in there. The list got shut down. I'm sorry I bought it. The building's still vacant. It's going to happen. It's all over the place. I wish I had bought a piece of property in LaGrange or in Village of Wappingers. I could be on the town of Poughkeepsie list and 4 other lists. So, yeah, I would say the number of trucks on the list, it's not, in all fairness, is immaterial to me, as long as they're paying their fair share and they treat it as a, they treat it important. They care about it. So that's my big thing.
I understand what you're
So,
saying.
if you want to bring businesses, get some rid of these vacant buildings, tow truck companies aren't going to go anywhere. They're going to buy something in LaGrange, Hyde Park, and Highland, Village of Wappingers, and be on everybody's list, including yours. My kid, if he wants to open up that building and buy a tow truck and get on it, he's going to be waiting 30 years. He's going to be old as I am before he even sees the list. And that's not fair to a town resident who's paying $20,000 in property taxes for a 1,000-square-foot building in the Spackenkill School District. That's not fair to him.
No, something does need to change with it, my honest opinion. It seems like you do believe in some sort of change, but we may not agree on this.
No, if we had 30 tow companies in the town of Poughkeepsie, I'd embrace every single one of them.
Okay. I appreciate
That's
that.
my feeling. But think about the safety, folks. Take a ride this Friday night, around 5 o'clock. Try to make it from Salt Point Turnpike, 2 miles outside the border, to 9 in Vassar, or worse yet, New Hamburg Road and by the train station. It's not going to happen. You want to keep increasing the number of officers on Route 9? Go right ahead. I can't afford the taxes anymore. I don't think they want to be sitting there babysitting cars either. I think we have other more serious issues to worry about. We need to tighten this down up, get those officers back to doing police work, not babysitting crash cars. Not one of those officers likes sitting on Route 9 at 5:30 and staying out in the middle of Route 9 directing traffic. You're waiting for an accident to happen. And it's not going to be with a car, it's going to be with a patrolman. Thank you, folks. I hope take my time into consideration. Give some thought.
Anybody else? Yeah. Anybody on your shoulder?
Yeah, my name is John Richardson. I didn't come here tonight to talk about tow trucks. I'm going to work my item, but after 48 years with the Arlington Fire Department, with almost 20 of them as a chief officer, and working with all these guys all these years at different accident scenes, the amount of money they have invested in equipment and trucks is astronomical, but the experience these guys have is well worth anything we can ever deal with. I've lived through years where it was a free for all. We could have 20 tow trucks on the scene, and the cops would be all upset because they were all over the place. And I've been out of the department for a couple of years now, but I noticed in the last 5 or 10 years, that they stage far away, they stay off the road, they're doing a good job of being available if they're next on the list, or if the officer wants to clear up the property, or clear up the road, and get the road open because it's 5 o'clock on a Friday and we got traffic tied up on Route 9 in Spackenkill down to the Wappingers Creek. So I see the importance of these guys on the list, and these guys are doing a good job. I've been around where I go up to the officer and I say, who are we waiting for? I'm tying up an engine with a paramedic on it, and I could have somebody be dying down the street here, and my paramedic is over here blocking traffic to make sure that the officers and the firefighters are safe, and we're tying up fire equipment in addition to police equipment, waiting for somebody to come from the other end of town. And I understand you have to have a list, but to expand it to people outside the town would be absolutely crazy. It would just delay things more and more. The traffic is terrible on Route 9 in a lot of areas in the town as it is. And as far as sitting there saying it gives another young kid, I don't want young kids running tow trucks. I think it's pretty dangerous. You really have to know what you're doing. And I think that younger kids should go to work for these guys, learn the business, and hope something opens up or moves to another town where they can be on the sheriff, the police, and the local police department list in other towns. But to sit there and expand the list and take away income from these guys who live in the town and have had their business in the town and have been dedicated to town for 30, 40 years, and cut their salaries because they're going to give it to a bunch of young hoopers who just got a driver's license a year ago, a towing tag a year ago, and were able to buy a third-hand tow truck that happens to meet the requirements of the town, and say, okay, now we have an 11, 12, 13, 14, you're going to cut their salaries by 33%. And I don't think it's fair. They've got a lot of money invested in equipment and in this town. And for the safety of the officers and the firefighters, I think it's crazy to expand it, period, but especially to expand it any further outside the district, the town Poughkeepsie lines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Out-of-town tow companies are already allowed. That's not expansion, right?
No, same mileage.
Anything else on the, no? Make a motion to close this public hearing?
Supervisor, can I, spoken earlier about maybe just going through, there've been some, what I think are minor modifications to this, and I thought that they should be presented.
Jim, can you just speak into your mic a little more, because there's, thanks.
There have been some changes made to this local law since it was last before the board on the 16th. For example, Mr. Safone mentioned that the time and business requirement had been reduced from 3 years to 1. The other things which were changed were there are specifics that have been added to the type of review which the chief of police can do, the nature of the inquiry. The credit card language has been trimmed down to what was just the first sentence, a requirement that towers accept 2 credit cards. There's a clause, 1.25A, that prohibited control or ownership in more than one tow company, and that has been taken out. The number of companies which was mentioned is in the new law at 15, and that has not been changed, but it is changeable by the town board based on resolution rather than having to go through a local law process. There's changes to 4.4 which have to do with vehicles which are taken for evidence or impound and where they have to go to. And basically they go as directed by the police officer to the police department's impound yard. There was a requirement that a company be able to respond within 5 minutes, which had to be logged and followed by the police department. But my understanding is that operationally that just is going to be something that's very difficult. So that is slated for removal. And there are just 2 more. One of them, the fees were $150, but it occurred that some companies are larger than others. Some have more employees, some only have 1 or 2. Some have several trucks, some just 1.
So the fee schedule per entity will stay at 150, but per truck for inspection, it's $55 now. Per heavy truck, $77, $55 per driver, pardon me, and because the yards have to be reviewed, $150 site visit. In earlier versions of this, the tow law was slated to go into effect in 90 days, and in the version that came before the board the last time, that language didn't appear in it, but it's back in. So this local law will take effect 90 days from now. So I just wanted to make sure that those were mentioned before the public hearing was closed. Pardon me. Thank you.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
What is your thought process in the committee after comment tonight? You want to vote, or you want?
If you want to vote, yes. I'd like to offer an amendment.
Want to read it first and we'll make the amendments?
I have it here. I want to offer amendment 1.27.
Why don't you read the resolution first? and then-
Oh, you want the
Okay,
resolution?
hold it.
Yeah.
Being enacted that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to duly noticed public hearing on June 16, 2021 and July 7, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the town hall, town of Poughkeepsie, 104 Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt by local law town code chapter 199 entitled towing, attached hereto as Exhibit A, which will replace the town existing police towing policy, and be it further enacted that the town board does hereby waive verbatim reading of Exhibit A and does direct that said local law shall be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim, and be it further enacted that the legal notice of the public hearing was posted on June 4, 2021, and published in Poughkeepsie Journal on June 8, 2021, and be it further enacted that after reviewing the proposed local law and the annexed May 28, 2021 Environmental Assessment Form Part 1, this board has determined that the adoption of this local law will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact, and it authorizes the supervisor or his designee to answer no to each of the questions on Part 2 of the EAF, and to complete Part 3 negative declaration, and be it further enacted that said local law, if adopted, shall be promptly forwarded to Secretary of State and shall take effect 90 days after filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion second?
Is it appropriate to make the amendment now?
Yes.
Okay. This would be an amendment to add a subsection under section 1.27 on page 9. Here we're speaking about the restrictions on the numbers on the tow list, the numerical order, et cetera. I'd like to have one that says that tow trucks on our tow list may only be on our tow list. I'd like a second for discussion.
Yeah, I'm not.
Second.
For discussion. And what's the board's feeling?
I'm not in favor of that. Pardon me, if you're going to consider that, I hate to do this at a second meeting in a row, but I think it would be a good idea to have an attorney-client conference about that. But
We might not go that far. If there's not support on the town board, it's not going any further.
Though it sounds good, we're restricting commerce, and that's not legal.
I don't know where, like, I appreciate Mr. Sheehan's comments. and I-
Yes,
and
that's
I-
where
I-
this is coming
I also
from.
appreciate his reasoning and the discussion. This, changing that on the fly right now, I think is problematic. But
Yeah, and I spoke to Jim about this, and he said too that this would be a method of restricting trade. I think if we want to reduce the number of companies to the list, we need to look at the distance around the town. Right now, we're at 2 miles, whereas Hyde Park is a 1/4 mile. Maybe we should be looking at 1 mile instead.
here's the thing.
This is
that-
just to discuss a restriction to being on one list. And if there's not support on the board, I'm going to withdraw the amendment.
I actually seconded it because it's the most attractive thing that I've heard. I like the idea of being on one list. Like you said, it supports people who are loyal to our list, who are going to be here because they want to be able to respond. They're close to the town or in the town. They're not going to be responding to every list that they can. So
And I will agree with that. One list, being a town as big as it is, and both gentlemen here spoke about the time frame, coming from Hyde Park end, the town end. One list gives you more dedication to the town, and I know people watch the list, they pay attention to the list, they know who's next, they go around, they pay attention. I fought to get somebody on the list years ago, I had an empty spot, and one of the reasons behind that was, it was a company in the lower end of the town. This is a big town, it's almost to the point, and this is not an amendment, is divided it into almost sections, because to get somebody that's gonna come from New Hamburg, or we used to have somebody right in Wappingers, in the town side, driving all the way out to past Adams, is a long ride. I
But
mean, on a normal day.
Yeah, but if they're willing to say, you know what, the town of Poughkeepsie, there's a lot there, I want to be on their list and only their list, then that makes more sense, because their response
We
time is
don't,
going to be better.
we don't
if they're
do
not.
that with anything else. We don't do that with other businesses. You can't.
I realize that,
I
but
mean,
this-
you don't do it with doctors, you don't do it with lawyers, you don't do it with restaurants, you don't do it with anything else.
So what did become-
And here's the thing, if you were gonna do that, you should have done it before we walked in the room here. You should have put that out there rather than on the fly, because it creates kind of a mess of this whole thing.
Well,
So,
I wasn't gonna change it
yeah,
till about an hour and a half ago,
right, but
where I spoke with Larry, and he mentioned this again. I remember Ann mentioning this back a ways. The part that I don't want it to go any further. If this
Yeah, like-
is gonna slow it down, I'll withdraw the amendment.
this is gonna,
But I wanna see if the thought of tow companies dedicating themselves to being to the town is important enough for the board to add the amendment.
what if
If
it's,
it's
just
not, we
give me
can-
an example where you do that somewhere else. Police officers. They're employed by the town. They're like
They can
that.
live elsewhere.
Listen, the public hearing for the public is closed. This is
Yeah,
a,
this
this
is
is a
us.
comment between
This
you
is
guys.
us. Stefan, what's in my head
Yeah,
is,
all right, just,
in my head is, if they're dedicated to us, I don't care how many are on the list. If there are 15 on the list, and they're only on our list, then we're guaranteed to get the response we want. I don't know whether it's a good idea or not, that's why I asked to have it considered.
And also, Stefan, just my response to, and where else do we do it? I see, we have a planning board, a zoning board, we decide how many gas stations do we want in the town? Do we want to be oversaturated with this kind of neighborhoods? There are instances where our boards step in to make decisions, as in respect to business within the town, I believe. Not in this fashion, but, abstractly,
I think you should
kind of
talk
what we do.
to Jim, because
I
you've
think we should go to executive session and let our attorneys speak to us. We've talked about this before at many meetings, but maybe we need a refresher. So I vote to take 10 minutes recess and go to executive session and talk with our attorney.
We have a second?
Okay.
Second?
Second. All in favor, town board is in executive session, 7:45 PM. We'll be back shortly.